Alrighty then, ladies and gents, in today's episode might be a good spectacle because I made this kind of special topic especially for you, those expatriates who plans to stay in Indonesia for a long period of time and who are wondering things like what's the culture like, what are the people like, the do's and don'ts while living in Indonesia. So it's kind of to avoid the possibility of getting a culture shock, or at least to get a small idea or first glance / an outlook of what society looks like here. Or maybe I'm just fed up and want to share to y'all so I can relieve things that's bothering me for quite some time by presenting this video to you. But no, seriously guys, it might be useful as well for those of you who are looking at starting a business here in Indonesia, or want to date with Indonesian guy or girl, who knows? Or maybe you just wanna watch to laugh at an Indonesian dude over here mispronouncing a bunch of English words. It's all cool. But things are certain though, before we dig any deeper, all of the things that I'm going about to share, it's pretty much based on my experience. So it doesn't mean when I say this and that, it will be every person nor every place. More of a general consensus really. I'm not to talk much about stereotypes either, just not my type of cup of tea topic to discuss. However, since I'm Indonesian myself, I'm pretty sure I am among the more qualified people to discuss such things. I mean, it really not much different than me talking about myself here and my own personal life, right? No? Anybody? Okay, never mind. So, how does it feel to be Indonesian, huh? Well, as someone who lives in one of these third or even fourth world countries, depending on whose definition you prefer. Well, yes, you heard me right. I didn't know that fourth world countries even existed at first either, until I read about some of those. But anyway, the thing that's quite obvious among the rest of developing countries like this one is that the power of collectivism still pretty dominant here. And for those who don't know what the heck the collectivism is, the simplest way of defining it in the case of Indonesia's situation itself, it's basically like the needs and goals of the group are always considered the most important as opposed to rather than an individual interest, sort of like utilitarianism. If you have social anxiety or self-conscious and those sort of things, consider yourself as different from the people around you, don't feel you fit in any typical social group, and decided to not join any local communities here, even a small one, and keep yourself as an individualist instead, guess what? You screwed big time. People are pretty nosy here as well. They seemingly want to know your personal life, thoughts and actions to your very core in the name of getting to know each other or bonding. If you are the type of person that is really respectful of and appreciative of individual privacy, then, well, good luck. I mean, since there's no point in keeping that principle here. A typical icebreaker is hearing your whole backstory. It can be a little much. Sometimes it's great, there are positive of getting to know each other very well and stuff, like for example, your family is even willing to sell a house or their property when one of their family members gets sick in order to pay medical cost expenses. So yeah, family is no joke here. But the downside of this kind of mentality is that, for instance, your girlfriend will hesitate to break you up right away if her friends or her social circle don't approve of you in comparison with their ideal standard, whatever that means. And also, it's extremely rare to see any PDA or affectionate couples here. Lovers that show their affection in public places, because as far as I know, it's considered inappropriate, or they'd be afraid it will draw lots of attention, or afraid of being judged by others, or even scared that people would read the affection as bragging somehow at some point. Honestly though, everything that associated with sexuality, it's very taboo here between two adult male and female, remarkably distinguished. I mean, like, if you want to greet someone on the street or visiting a friend, and moreover is an opposite gender, we not do hug first of all, or even just put your arm around someone's shoulder. Physical contact means a lot. You have to be really careful though. I don't know, because people might consider it as sexual assault. And also, if you hang out with the opposite gender, but there are just two of you, even though you are just friends, people around will think that you are together, or people are expecting you guys to make a relationship out of it. And the whole bromance also won't work here, man. If two grown men hang out together too often, they'll be considered gay or non-hetero, and whatever sexual orientation out there besides straight or heterosexual is culturally unacceptable. I'm not picking a side on this, but it is what it is, just saying. So the solution is to just team up with larger group of people. All of this, as affected, connects to our language itself. For example, if we want to say I love you to our own parents, we rarely say in the Indonesian language, because the word love is cinta in Indonesian, and cinta is almost exclusively used for romance purposes only. So if we do that, chances are people might think we love our parents in a sexual way. It's Indonesia after all, not Alabama. And also, for instance, if I spoke too much, I'm too intense in communicating with someone of the opposite gender, people will think that I like her romantically or sexually, and whoever I was talking to would probably think I like them. All of a sudden they'll be like, oh, sorry, I'm not interested in you, or I'm straight, dude, if it's another guy, or I'm married. Well, so cringe, that one may be a bit exaggerated, but you get the point. And now let's talk about body shaming. Oh, I love this one. Take an example like racism. Oh yes. Even here in Indonesia, we do all agree that racism is bad, but a lot of people, especially in rural areas, tend to hear jokes referring to body shape, obesity, skin color, height, ages, and other personal traits. If you want to start a small talk with local here, don't expect talking about the weather, but instead a bunch of questions that are more personal, such as how old are you, or what's your job, what do you do for a living. Even further, they may not even hesitate to ask how much do you get paid with that company, and so on and so forth. In Indonesia, once again, we're obsessed with nose shape. So while people in Western culture who have flattened noses in general may be considered to have an exotic trait, here, however, if you have one, your close friend will hesitate to make fun of it. Usually, bigger, pointed noses are seen as attractive hair. No wonder that since we are very little, from very young ages, when you are a child, it's very common for moms to massage their kid's nose. Hopefully, it is shaped well as they wish. Weird, huh? Yes, I know. And also, we're obsessed with lighter skin tone. Usually in Western culture, people tend to want or are attracted to tanned brown skin. Here on the other hand, our preferences are reversed. The lighter, the better. It's not difficult to find bright cosmetic products. They're virtually everywhere. And in this culture, this idea is very hardwired and really impactful in social situations. For example, when I was in college, I stayed in some kind of dormitory, right? Once upon a time, there's a person, a newcomer or something, looking for a boarding house. He came to our place and asked us if there was still any empty room left. Me and my roommate knew that there was still a couple of rooms available. But the landlord says, nope, all of the rooms are full. And after he walked away, the landlord said, it's better this way. I think I'll just accepting people who are just like us for safety. And I said to myself like, whoa, really? Just because of his skin color, you assume he's some kind of bad guy or something? But then I realized even in our economic regulatory, financial institutions like banks, they use these racial stereotypes by hiring most of their debt collectors from the eastern part of Indonesia in areas such as Moluccas, where the people well known usually have a dark skin color. This is done in the hope of being able to intimidate people, so they'll pay up ASAP so the bank can secure the money. And by the way, in our culture, Negro is a term that is less offensive than black for calling those of us who have with darker skin. Just leave it there. A so-called fun fact, whatever. Shouldn't have said that, some sort. And now bureaucracy. Bureaucracy, it's all very slow here. If you're not ransoming, not offering bribes to people, they'll pretty much go out of their way to make a long, painful journey, make everything way more complicated. I'll give you an example. Well, I don't know if it's the right appropriate example or not, but I'll give it a shot anyway. When I was in a college during semester 5, I think, we as a student were required to take an apprentice in work field in animation studios for about 3 months. And so my friend and I tried to apply to one of animation studios in Malaysia, which is a neighboring country to Indonesia, right? But when we're trying to organize the paperwork and turn it into the college administrator, they tried to persuade us to apply to be apprentices in Indonesia studio instead. In short, they refused to help us, even though we convinced them that it would be a good opportunity to introduce the college's name abroad. But still, they responded cynically instead and said to us like, "Why don't you two just look for an internship in Amsterdam? The farther the better, eh? Go away, don't make my job here more difficult than it already is. Come to me if you find an internship in Indonesia." Blah blah blah. Sorry, the bad memories are returning. If you have a big dream, a dream that seems out of the norm of the people around you, you'll most likely face in with lots of additional obstacles. Especially if you are interested in the art, you'll end up facing a lot of criticism. Again, this culture is hardwired and has been well established for a really long time. I think it has a lot to do with the curriculum education system. In fact, the teacher would most likely appreciate you more if you flourish in math, science, and anything that pushes you beyond your pay. It's worth way of your module grade as opposed to, let's say, dancing, painting, poetry, or even speech perhaps. Our system itself has something wrong with it that just doesn't seem right. Even in my humble opinion, and obviously there's nothing humble about me, I mean like in the math, physics and science department, like yes, we've won a lot of math Olympiad competition for example, but in the real world, we're still far behind. We memorize all these formulas, we've mastered many different theories, but it seems we've failed to actually understand it, to see the actual big picture of it. I think studying is not done simply to win the Olympic, but instead it needs to be useful as well on daily basis or in a career, right? Never mind. Okay, now that I've got the negative bit out of the way, let's focus on the positive, shall we? So in Indonesia, you won't find it difficult to find people to talk to or to gather with. In the morning, like in the traditional market for example, people start selling things at 5 in the morning. Like, I mean, what a work ethic, it's pretty darn good, isn't it? If you have a new neighbor move in next to your house, they'll usually knock on your door and give you some food in order to make a good first impression. They may even invite you to their house. It can be very welcoming really. And what else? Well, I think that's it for it now. I'm pretty sure there's more because I just simply can't get everything into one video obviously. My palm inflamed trying to illustrate for a long video like this. But don't worry, if this gets mad hype, maybe I'll consider making part 2. Thanks for dropping by. Please subscribe. You can also hit that bell button if you want. Share this video all over any social media platforms you have. Give the ones you're interested in a like. And tell me your thoughts down below or what you want to see in the future. See you at the next round. Bye. Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna get carpal tunnel for sure.